Dear Jonathan, first I want to wish you a blessed day and tell you that yesterday at our conversation, when I got emotional because I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry that you don't realize there's light outside when there's light outside because of a preconceived manipulation. And I feel sorry that you don't even think that is the case. You're such a good, honest person, and my heart breaks for you that you cannot see certain basic truths. It breaks because I care about you and I feel close to you, and yesterday I felt miles apart. I guess we know a person has to want to see the truth and seek it out. I guess I can understand that someone who has only been fed certain information can see things a certain way. But I am asking you, no, begging you, to please open your heart and mind to listen and think about these questions I ask you. I know you told me that perhaps I am the one brainwashed, and we can look at that. For someone to be brainwashed, someone has to be feeding them false information about the idea that they're brainwashed in. So let's break that down. If I'm brainwashed, it would mean that someone would have to told me to like Trump, but I never had that experience. I went to a university who officially is open-minded, but liberal universities who are open-minded to their own ideas. I got cursed to my face for being religious. In class, liberal ideas were discussed, and I was shut down if I ever brought a conservative view to the table. But what may have been my most remarkable thing in university was that before the 2016 election, I was in class when the professor said we will go around the room and each student should say a reason why Trump should not be in the presidential race. I was not told to like Trump, so how can I be brainwashed to like him? I was told to hate him. So I don't base my views on secondhand information. I base it on things that happened to me. My taxes went down under Trump, and I started getting more money, and that's something that happened to me. That's not someone telling me to think or feel a certain way. I see for 4 years, Trump did not start any wars, even though the media said he would have World War III. That's something I can see. All around me, I am told to hate Trump. The media doesn't brainwash me, tell me to love Trump. There are no videos or newspapers in the mainstream media telling me that Trump is good. It's just the opposite. So I don't understand. How am I the one brainwashed? By very definition, brainwashed would have to mean by a third party. My decisions are based on the reality of my own life. I support Trump because I look at the facts and the truth. You tell me that you don't like the way Trump handled the pandemic. It's interesting that you would pick a topic that's really theoretical, because this is the first of this type of pandemic in maybe 100 years. But in reality, we know based on what Biden said in his tweets and on record, how much worse it would have been under him. I know people want to blame Trump for the 210,000 deaths of COVID-19. But here are a few things you may want to consider asking yourself. You may want to ask yourself why Democratic-run states have higher death per population rate. You may want to ask yourself why barely anyone died this year of anything other than COVID-19. You may want to ask yourself how many people contacted the swine flu under Obama-Biden. Of course, the swine flu wasn't lethal, but Obama-Biden's own administration said he got lucky because he did everything wrong and it just wasn't a lethal flu. You tell me even Bob Woodward said in his book that Trump didn't tell us what he knew. You may want to ask yourself if there is context and a timeline left out in this discussion. You may want to look at how Trump took unprecedented measures meaning action, not just talk. So if you recall, when on January 31st, Trump started to take certain measures by banning travel to China and setting up testing and starting the vaccine process, he was called by Biden xenophobic. And Biden said he was getting hysterical. You can go back and look at the tweets to help yourself see the timeline. Pelosi was still strolling Chinatown, saying it's nothing, way after Trump already integrated things. If Trump saying we can certainly get through this is what you call playing it down, I ask you to think about the rule we know about crisis and calm. When there is a fire in the building, if you remain calm, there is a greater chance of survival, not lower chance. At each step of the way, Trump told us what was known in the world at that time. What was known about the virus in March was different than in January. And like any normal person, when people spoke to him, he said, don't worry, we'll get through this. Because that's how leaders lead. You said you were laughing when President Trump said he hopes this will be gone by Easter. But I don't understand what's funny. I, among millions, carried such a hope. I ask you, when do you hope it will stop? On November 4th? You talked about getting more ventilators faster. You may want to ask yourself to look back at each of the tweets that Trump tweeted and see when the ventilators were produced, which companies he gave incentives to produce more ventilators, and how many. And if you don't want to believe his tweets, that's okay. You can call each hospital and find out when the ventilators were delivered. How and where did you want him to do more than he was doing? I know it's easier to put blame on the president for someone's death. Sometimes it's easier to be a Democrat and blame others. But it's important to look closely at the facts. It's important to look how many people actually died from the virus, or, as you said, you know it's true that many of them had pre-existing conditions that caused their death. It is important to look at the prediction that said that millions of people would have died, and look at the low number in comparison to actual deaths. Of course, one death is too many. It is important to remember that America is not a dictatorship, and it is a free world. It is important to note how 3 months later, Biden copies and pastes Trump's policies, the ones he thinks Americans absolutely want. These are things, if you want to know the truth, you will look up. It is important to note how there are risks to staying locked up. And as a therapist, I'm sure you understand the mental health risks versus the less than 1% risk to the younger population. It is important to remember that stimulus checks were sent out, and more would be sent out if Nancy did not insist they are paired with things that would be terrible for the country. It is important to note how many thousands of businesses received PPP and how many millions of PPE were given out. It is important to note how Trump said any state that needs his help, he's there. But if you don't want to see this, you can redact it all from your story, and then you will not see the reality. I ask you to ask yourself how the virus knows to stay away at peaceful protesting and not at houses of worship. You say that there was one rally that Trump was expecting millions and only 8,000 showed up. I ask you to ask yourself to count how many rallies Trump has done this year and how many people showed up to each. It is possible that the left are louder, but louder does not mean more. I ask you to then count how many people attended all of Biden's rallies. I ask you to compare those two numbers. You say Trump plays more golf than Obama, and frankly, I don't care, because the more self-care, the better. But regardless, every week, Trump is helping the American worker, making peace treaties, doing for America. His schedules are available. He's tweeting to us, letting us know what he's doing. There's not a lot of time between everything he does, but if he gets in golf and it makes him as productive as he is, then in my opinion, he should do it more often. You tell me Biden has a stutter, and I'm respectful of his stutter. I was actually at that point asking you when he said about COVID in 100 years, or 200 million people may be dead by the end of this speech, or when he contradicts himself in the same day, depending on which crowd he talks to. These are things that are on the record that you can look up, but the stutter has nothing to do with it. You know, I go by the facts, and I'm not looking at memes. Facts are what's important to me. And just because media says something is a fact, That's not what makes it a fact. If it happens, then it's a fact. There's two concepts I want to share with you. I can ask a question and the left can answer, but it doesn't mean they are answering the question. So if I say, why are you going to bed? And you say, because I have pajamas on, that does not mean you're answering the question. You're giving information around the topic, but that may not be why you're going to bed. But this can get lost on many people listening to the media. I ask you to listen to see if questions are answered or sidestepped. Additionally, if the media says the sky is green, it does not make it green. And if they say a hot air balloon in the sky is green, it still doesn't make the sky green. I know it's very hard to pull out the facts because you said you get your information from multiple sources. I ask you, are those sources primary or secondary? My information is from primary sources. I see no wars started. I see drug prices went down. I see the type of economy we have. And I also hear directly how Biden and Harris change what they say. Even within the same 10 minutes, I listen to both sides. I hear the speeches and I see the tweets. I don't see Trump say contradictory things. So if your information is from secondary sources, I ask you to explore, to look deeper. We started to talk about research. Some of the polls from the 2016 election were done by the very same university that I attended. I went around the classrooms asking why Trump should not be allowed to run. How can that not be a biased poll? How? When I went back to the source of the polls in 2016, many polls have asked more Democrats than Republicans who they were voting for. When there is a video of Biden saying stupid bastards to veterans, yet just an ad from Biden saying that Trump disrespects the veterans, I look at the past 4 years and I see how Trump respected the veterans, and I understand that Biden doesn't have policies that most Americans want. So I understand that Biden needs to tug at heartstrings, and this ad is one of those evils. You have said that perhaps we should agree to disagree, but I won't agree to disagree on facts. I won't agree to disagree about the fact that my taxes are lower. I won't agree to disagree about the things Trump did in 4 years more than any recent president. I cannot agree to disagree that he has made 3 peace treaties in 1 month. I won't agree to disagree on facts. On opinions, on policy difference, we can agree to disagree. So if you want your money going to help abortion, and I do not want my tax money going to help abortion, we can agree to disagree. If you ask me to agree to disagree that there's a sun in the sky, I won't do that. But I will try my hardest to show you the sun. You say that maybe I feel bad that there are so few people who agree with me. That is not the truth. The reality is, aside from the people who are part of Hollywood, who are professors or professionals that were manipulated by the media, the rioters, the Black Lives Matter, the rest of the great country has voted in 2016 for Trump. They attend his rallies, and it's tens of millions of people that shout 4 more years. The reality is that on the news, on the road, the few people who believe the media, maybe they are louder. It gets attention when you pull off someone's hat at a restaurant. And nobody is afraid to show their Biden sign because Trump supporters don't hurt Biden supporters. So perhaps there are millions of more people who are supporting Trump that will not show their flags outside. But they are there. And America is a great country. It is not hopeless. It is not dark. And I won't vote for a side that wants to control us or raise our taxes or allow criminals into our country or allow a movement of people who end up killing people because less blacks were killed at the hands of police than whites. I won't vote for them. I really hope you hear what I'm saying, and I hope there will be a time when you'll open up your mind and heart to look at the questions I am asking. Until that time, I wish you well. I pray for you, and I pray that you have love, wealth, health, peace of mind, and everything your heart desires. May God bless you.